Hello, everybody. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person. Obviously, COVID has made some changes this year, and um, we're going to probably have to live with them for a little while. But that said, I didn't want to miss an opportunity to talk to you guys and do some of the training. Hopefully, everything's going well. So, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Tim Osborne. I'm a safety director within the Appalachian Materials region. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about human performance today. I'll share my screen with you. Okay, so we're going to talk about drift and we're going to talk about human performance. So here we go. We're going to talk about human performance. We'll go into a brief introduction. We're going to talk about drift, active triggers, and latent conditions. We'll summarize it up, and then I'll tell you what you guys can do to make things better going forward. All right, so to get started, what is human performance? It's basically an application of principles and techniques to reduce human errors and their consequences at all levels. Um, we're never going to be able to eliminate human error. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it safer in the event that we do have human error. So HP measures the effectiveness of the safety management system, and it was basically conceived in a reaction to the idea that if we depend on people to do something right 100% of the time, it's we're going to be set up for disappointment, a lot of disappointment. So human performance is founded on the idea that error is just unintended. Nobody sets out that day to have an error that's going to result in an accident or incident. So the purpose of human performance is to increase the ability to understand and manage those human factors that lead to that human error. It focuses our attention not only what happened, but how it happened and the details that led to it. And HP is designed to help continually improve performance in not only safety, but in quality and production and other factors of the business. So what's it all about? No amount of discipline is going to prevent human error. And safety is not about the absence of injury, it's the presence of defenses. So just because you have a zero recordable rate, which means we had no incidents, that doesn't mean that we're doing everything as safe as we can. We just want to make sure that we have the defenses in place so that when somebody does make a mistake or has an incident, it's not catastrophic. So, and you can look at several different things where human performance got its start. The Department of Energy in the 3 Mile Island case, the airline industry blaming pilots for crashes. The old view was focused on the incident and asking, why did this happen? Those root cause analysis techniques, they've not eliminated the crashes and the incidents from happening going forward. So we had to find a different way. When we ask the question why, it typically leads us to blame and focus on the acts of the unsafe worker. Human nature seeks to reach a satisfactory level of performance with minimal effort. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, people are going to do the least amount of effort required to get the job done. We all do it. It's human nature. And the problem is that behavior is reinforced when you do the task easier and you perform it faster, even though you took shortcuts to get there. People are going to seek the good enough solution. You've probably heard the phrase, it's close enough for government work or something to that effect. Rather than exerting extra effort to perform, uh, they're going to do what they can to get it done. And I know you guys have probably heard me say this, but using a chair to change a light bulb. Um, why do we do that? Because the chair is close by. The ladder's upstairs or downstairs or in the garage or outside. It's somewhere else. And the chair's right there. And what makes that worse, just like we say in the second step there, behavior is reinforced when the task is easier and faster to perform, we can get the task done. And we've probably done it a number of times without an incident. But it just takes one slip of that chair because the chair was not designed for us to be standing in and changing light bulbs. Now, if you look to the right here, the operator fell off the tracks of the machine trying to close the engine door that was being held by a bungee cord. Now, in this case, do you think the operator was trying to get hurt? No, this is a workaround. You see, they got the rag tied there. They use that to pull the door open, and then the bungee cord is used to hold the door closed. And if the handle was in place, the operator wouldn't have to climb up there and do that and mess around with that bungee cord to begin with. But why do we do that? We do it because something happened to the doorknob, the handle that we would normally turn to close, and we're not going to shut down the whole machine because the door handle is broken. Okay, it's understandable. You think, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal, but this person ended up getting hurt from it. Okay, there are several different things we could have done here. Okay, yeah, I'm not encouraging you to take the machine out of operation, but we need to have some kind of temporary solution, like only opening and closing that door when you've got a suitable platform, like a ladder nearby, and then get this doorknob scheduled for repair as soon as possible. How does organizational drift occur? Well, it comes out of the normal process of doing business. Production and schedule pressures, costs, resources, competition, uh, it all causes trade-offs. Just like in the example before, you know, we need that machine in operation. So we're not gonna take the machine out of operation because the door handle that we get in, a couple times a day is damaged. But we need to have a solution for that. Competition for limited resources leads to borrowing from operating margins, and doing more with less leads to taking greater risk. Why is it that conditions conducive to an accident were never acknowledged or acted upon by those on the inside of the system for the Space Shuttle Challenger? They had people telling them, you can't fly this thing if the temperature is below 32 degrees because of those O-rings. But they've taken chances before, and at that point they'd never had an incident. So they overrode all those concerns and they took flight anyway. And we all know how that turned out. So when you look at this, there's a lot going on in this. Organizational drift, it's a gradual decline in the organization or system's normal functioning. The green line, number one there, is the expected outcome according to the written procedure with no deviations. That's work as expected. But if you follow the red line, number two, this is reality. This is what happens when our people are out on the job, doing the job and getting it done. Okay, so that reality, there's a deviation from the procedure. Okay, that's drift. It occurs in two different ways, either personal drift or organizational drift. Now, personal drift, the employee increases their own risk tolerance and they don't have an event, just like I talked about standing in the chair. And that leads to them taking that risky behavior on a regular basis. Now, they use the example here of failure to always wear appropriate PPE. You jump out of your truck, you forget to put your hard hat on, you walk around for 10 minutes, you get back in your truck, and you move on with your day. Nothing happened. So then the next time you forget your hard hat, it becomes more of a norm. It's okay. I'm just going to be out for a minute. And before you know it, you're operating the whole day without it. That's drift. Now, organizational drift, on the other hand, is a slow deterioration of standards and operating procedures. Now, this can be deviations from the rules, um, changes in our procedures that aren't written down. So they use the example here, operating a loader with a malfunctioning backup alarm and not yielding properly to yard traffic. Well, if you're operating a piece of equipment without a backup alarm and you know it, um, that's a deviation from the expected norm, because we expect those to have backup alarms and we expect them to be functional. If everybody in the area thinks that backup alarm is working, they're going to be caught off guard when you start backing up and go toward them and there's no backup alarm. So this is all fueled by competing pressures for company resources. If we only have one man lift and two people are working at heights in different places, what are you going to do? You got to have a plan for that. And then drift tends to be justified and minimalized by managers. As it becomes normalized, it becomes invisible. If nobody says anything to the guy not wearing a hard hat, then it's going to be accepted behavior. And as Jeff Withrow always says, you teach what you allow. So you see one person operating without a hard hat and nobody says anything to them. Somebody else is like, that thing's uncomfortable. Nobody says anything to him. I'm not going to wear mine either. And before you know it, it's an accepted procedure that nobody follows. So what are you going to do about drift? Well, the first thing to do is accept that it's going to occur. It will happen. But we've got to use all means and methods to identify it. Realize that more rules and procedures are not always the answer. We've got to utilize the ones that we have. Understand how people come to believe that not following the rules and procedures makes more sense, and spend time watching employees, your peers, or anybody else, contractors, anybody else on the job. Spend time watching them, and when the behavior starts to drift, we need to get people together and talk about that. So we got to have a relationship to gain honest input about how work is actually done. Okay, don't say that we always check the oil on our pre-shift when we're not doing that. That doesn't do anybody any good. So we got to get comfortable with being able to talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about. Get the workers involved in designing procedures. The people closest to the hazard should have input on how we do things and the tools that we use to do them. And then we need to constantly update our procedures in line with current practice. That's why we have annual reviews of our lockout tagout program, of confined space, fall protection. That's why we have those in place, so that we can catch drift that's occurring. Okay, if you find yourself not subject to the rules, you've already started drifting. So how does it occur? Workers don't cause failures, they trigger latent conditions. Now, what is a latent condition? That's basically something that exists in systems, processes, or procedures that lies dormant in the workplace. It could be there for years. It could be as simple as a hose stretched across the parking lot and It's always there. And until somebody trips over it, nobody looks at it as a hazard because, as far as they know, it's always been there. And then somebody trips over it, that's the active trigger. When they catch their foot on that hose and they have an incident, that's the event immediately preceding the accident, them catching their foot on the hose. So when I talk about latent conditions and active triggers, the latent condition is the condition that already existed. The active trigger is what causes it to become an incident. Okay, usually unsafe acts are committed by workers who are in direct contact with the work. They have a mental slip, lapses, they're thinking about something else, or they're trying to multitask, they're taking a shortcut. Sometimes they're violations, or sometimes it's just a flat out mistake. Okay, and like we talked about with drift on the organization side, the work plan, the latent conditions, as that happens, we deviate from our procedures and processes. The latent conditions get us further away from the work plan, and then we end up with an incident. So an example of that is the game Jenga. If you've never seen Jenga, you should check it out. Basically, you stack all these blocks up, and then you got to pull one out at a time and stack them on top. Make the tower larger, but it makes it more unstable. Okay, and as you go through this, each person, as they pull one of the blocks out, that's just like this example with the latent conditions and the active trigger. Each one of those blocks you pull out is a hole in our system, is a latent condition. So they give some examples here: lack of following up on PPE violation, blame fixing resulting in employees not reporting unsafe conditions, management putting production ahead of safety, failure to maintain equipment. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of those latent conditions that exist, and the longer they exist, the more they become invisible. So in Jenga, you keep pulling those out until somebody pulls one block out that brings the whole tower down. And that's our active trigger. Okay. And that's the failure that occurs that causes the whole tower to collapse. Now, did that employee's mistake, or that person that chose that block, was it their fault that the tower came down? No, it was the failure of the system that they were in. Now in the game, obviously, whoever pulls the tower down, they're the one at fault. They lost the game. But in reality, that worker is just activating those latent conditions. So traditional safety, workers are the problem. We fix safety and make workers better. We must tell the workers what to do and what not to do, and safety is the absence of accidents. We want to prevent things from going wrong. Okay? In the new view of safety, workers are the problem solvers. We don't tell them what to do. We ask them what they need to do the job right. And then safety is the presence of defenses. We just want to make sure things go right. Now, in summary, employees don't cause the accidents. They're caused by latent conditions that are triggered by employee action, just like the Jenga block tower. Latent conditions create gaps in our defenses and allow those incidents to occur. The key is to create a reporting and learning culture, because if people won't tell us things that are wrong, we can't give them the resources and tools to fix them. The key, incident prevention happens through learning, creating a culture that's going to lead us ultimately to eliminate serious harm. I don't think you can do that without properly engaging, training, teaching, coaching people on what those techniques look like. And we're starting down that path. So if we want to become a learning organization, we want to create an environment of trust. It's about understanding organizational drift and uncovering those weaknesses, but it requires us moving from that crime and punishment model to one of diagnose and treat. And I think that we've been making that transition for a few years. We're doing much better, but we need everybody's help to get us there. Now, one of the tools that I want to share with you guys, and some of you are already using stuff like this, but this is a great one that you can use: conducting after action reviews. So basically, what that is after you complete a job, after you finish a task, you get everybody together and you focus on um, how things went. Did it go the way that you expected it to go? What deviations did you have to do to get the job done? Okay, and the more we do that, the more we get people on the same page, and we fix those gaps that we have. So maybe when you're going through the job, you realize, oh, we really needed this power tool to get this job done, but we didn't have it, so we had to work around. We lost time because we weren't using the right tool for the job. And when you do that, obviously you're going to have some gaps, um, but we can fix those going forward, and it allows us to learn from each one of those. This encourages people to participate, and it emphasizes trust and the value of feedback. Everybody has something valuable to add, and the minute you stop listening to them because they're new, because you don't think they know what they're talking about, or whatever, you lose that value. Okay. Now, these after action reviews, like I said, they can be performed after the shift. You could do these daily, um, after you complete a job, anything like that. So, what can you do? Well, become interested in successful work. Use the HP tool that I just talked about, and embrace the safety leadership interaction process by observing the work and asking better questions. Participate in operational learning teams. And operational learning teams are the people that get together and basically go out and find those latent conditions and fix them before they become issues. Become involved in event learning teams, which is a reactive approach after an incident occurs, so that we can learn from it and share the results, uh, so that people don't have to learn about it the hard way. And then we want to understand the learning team process and support the process. Okay. I know I went through a lot there rather quickly, um, but you'll start to see some changes in the organization. I think you're really going to like what you see, because we've put a lot of time and effort into doing this the right way. We're conducting training that's going to be occurring all throughout this year, and the goal is it's not going to affect the work that you do. It's gonna provide you with better tools, better resources, and it's gonna give you all the stuff that you need to do the job safely, and hopefully build that level of trust so that you feel like you can come to us and let us know if there's something that's not right, if there's something that you think's a potential hazard, and we can fix it. We can put resources on it, and we can fix those challenges. Okay, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, and this is just one of the steps in the process. But I'm serving as the HP champion for the South Division as it existed in 2020, and so obviously I'm in the Appalachian Materials region. So I'm here. I'm a resource for you guys all the time. But reach out to me. Reach out to JL and Chase and Jeff Withrow. Uh, any of us on the safety team are here to help move this process forward. If you want to get more involved in it, let us know. All right. Thank you guys. I hope the rest of the training goes well. And I look forward to seeing you guys out in the field. Thanks.